Hello and welcome to another edition of your favorite program on Catholic Television of Nigeria, Spotlight. Spotlight is a program where we discuss various issues on economy, leadership, politics, business, and also things that will bring about development of our nation, Nigeria. Today, we have a very important guest who is Professor Obiora Okonkwo. He's a distinguished Nigerian, a devout Catholic, a business leader, a politician, and also he is the Chief Executive Officer and the CEO of United Nigerian Airline. Sir, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we'll start with our traditional question. We have a country where things have changed over the years since we started in 1960 as a nation. How has growing up been for you, what we had in the past and where we are today?
Our era of growing up was definitely different from today.
Yeah.
And I don't know where to begin.
You can just start from somewhere.
It's a whole lot of difference. But if you look at it from the aspect of religion, obviously having grown up in our hometowns, in our village, rural area, the only thing that was closest to us was church, religion. I happen to come from a town called Ogidi in Anambra State, and then you're either a Catholic or an Anglican, which we call CMS. And then government surely was very far away. It was when we had the larger Anambra State with the capital in Enugu. Anambra, as it is today, has not been created. So the closest government body we see is a councillor, not even the local government. The local government chairman was large and all that. So the closest you have around is the church. And even in that church, it wasn't an era where you have parishes, a few hundred meters from each other. No, you have parish priests still come from another town. But for the fact that you can still have your daily mass in some places, and some other places you have catechists
who serve as the priests.
So, but nevertheless, church was the closest. So we grew up in no other way than the way of the church, the doctrines of the church. Because even if you look around, then the schools were also church.
Yeah.
You know, so everything around it was church. So our foundation, our tradition, our virtues, our values were all built around the church, and then in this case, Catholic Church. So that was our growing up. And it's different surely from now, you know, where there are a whole lot of choices.
Yeah.
And the only information we do have then would just also be from the church.
Yes.
You know, the civilization that was close to us was the church. And the life of the church then was, yes, Father.
I think it's still yes, Father, now, except with a little difference anyway.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah, it's still yes, Father, to some extent, like you said.
Was, in our language then, it was called Oka Father. That means the church. Oka Father, that means Father's church.
Yes.
So, it's it. Yeah.
Okay, comparing the youth of those days and now, do you think the youth are getting it right now? Because at that time, we have a situation where young people listen to their elders. They sit on the foot of their elders to get words of knowledge. But today, the tide have changed, and it's like the youth are in a hurry.
You see, I will not say they're in a hurry. They have information at their fingertips. Yes, that time you had no other way to get information apart from your elders, your parents.
Yeah.
Without planning, these are people who go beyond your environment. Maybe they go to the city and come back. They meet other people that they don't meet because then life was so close. You grow up in your village and the people around the villages are just your own people who know little or nothing. So there was no television. There was no radio. So supposedly, a source of information will be the elders who have longer legs, who could go beyond
the immediate communities.
The immediate community. So, but today, I have youth, my children who are youth, and even those who are younger, still in adolescent age. Their information today, I even get from them.
Sure.
As much as we think that was a good way to grow, I have nothing wrong about that. But I'm not one who entirely think that things are changing for the worse because kids don't sit around us to get information. What information do we have to give them that they don't have before us?
I think moral information, that's what I'm talking about.
So if you're talking about moral information, yes, it will still be there. But we only have a challenge now to inculcate our way of passing on those moral lessons in line with the dynamics of our time. I particularly have been concerned about this, and I try to reach out to the church leadership at the highest level and to engage them to say, look, while growing up, our source of information was catechism, our schools. We started our school under the 3, not even kindergarten, Dakara, not nursery school. We used slate and chalk
to write.
That was no problem. That was what obtained there. Because when we go to our school, it was not even better. So, and then I was telling them, today, we have an obligation to teach our children catechism. For the purpose of this conversation, my children attend American International School. The teaching methodology and technology is all about a condition room, computer, everything modern. They have to go to catechism. And then they leave the school and they go to catechism still outside the church, still in some places under the tree.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Are we actually evolving with the challenges and the trends and dynamics of the time? We have a responsibility as a church to take matters of this nature very, very seriously. I'm using my kids as an example. But surely and definitely when they go to such places, they will not find it a conducive environment for learning.
Yeah.
So what are the teaching materials we have for the catechism? Are they still in I talk, you repeat, I talk, you repeat? Are they written? If they are just written, in what way? Kids that have to start learning church things today, they are kids that start learning their things on cartoons and other simulations.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong in having cartoons. There's nothing wrong in having those simulators. What is wrong is what is the content and the lesson that it teaches. Can't we have our church also adopt such methodology and material? So when I reached out to that highest level of church leadership, they acknowledged that and said they were going to call a national conference to set up a committee to discuss the teaching of catechism. I want to believe either it's done or it's in the process. But we as a church have a duty also in those areas that do not affect the foundation of our belief to make some adaptations and changes. Otherwise, it will be so unattractive for these our children to learn, and then making it difficult for us to impart the knowledge. Yes, as it is today, it's a challenge we face.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we're all guilty of it, then I'm one of those. As we speak now, the information that was passed on to me right now by my assistant is that because my kids are already on holiday, is that their catechism teacher is here. So just as we arrange home teaching for
our
children, like home lesson, I'm arranging catechism lesson here at home. So now during the weekends, I have made a deal with them. They still have to go to the church environment, see children, make new friends and all that. That's the deal, because everything now with these kids, you negotiate. We negotiate. That's the challenge. This is the time we're living. We wouldn't simply say, oh, their own time, this is, yes, I mean, I discussed with them when I tried to wake them up. I'm just kindly asking him to wake up each time. My own time, they'll just pour water on me, boom! And if they come back into meet you on the bed,
it's a big problem.
You'll be harder for it. Was he wrong? I'm not here to judge, but that was the best way they could do it. And then obviously, I knew that certain steps that was seen in me then, that was a little bit different from my siblings. Maybe what we could see today from our children as a sign of being sharp, being smart, because you just don't want to do things in the usual way. You want to just be yourself or have your own mind. That was what landed me from my village to Onitsha, because we lived in our village, hometown Ogidi. So my father had shop in Onitsha main market. He would go from Monday to Friday and come back home. All of us were home. So when he saw that me, I tried to do things differently. I want to play when I shouldn't play. Those are the crimes that you would commit them. That was a big crime. That instead of you to be home doing some domestic thing, you went to play football. In our time, it was a crime. How dare you play football when you shouldn't? That landed me in Onitsha. My father felt that he wouldn't just leave me in the hands of my mother. Otherwise, I would be useless.
Yes.
But it turned out to be
a blessing in disguise.
Like a Joseph who was sold to slave trade. So, as much as I know, my father loved me so much, and I was like his carbon copy. He just felt he wouldn't take off his eyes on me. That was the credit, and they had all the time to see some differences. But anyway, they could interpret it differently than what today they would. Today, if you see a child having some signs of interest in soccer and talent,
you decide to encourage him
to send him to academy. Pay money for him to. But those days, you are in trouble. And similar things.
Dear viewers, the program is still Spotlight on Catholic Television of Nigeria, and we'll be taking a short break now. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, the program is Spotlight on Catholic Television of Nigeria. Yeah, well, like we agreed that things have changed, and then every generation have their own way of doing things. Now, The Catholic values you've learned or you've acquired from the church, from your parents, how has that been able to help you in your leadership?
Well, it's not in my leadership, in my whole life. I still tell it to my children. When it comes to those values, when it comes to those things about our Catholic faith, that's for me, it's a no compromise. How we will pass it on, how we will teach it, how we will indoctrinate them, is a different thing. I'm ready to take whichever way that will work. But as of the value, I think there is nothing like that. Even last night, when we finished praying, I still told them, everything I am today is my parents' insistence on this, first of all, Catholic values and traditional values. I reminded them that when I was traveling overseas for my studies, those days, you know, it was a big deal for people to travel.
Yeah.
They don't just carry a bag and enter the aircraft and vamoose. You know, like they say, family, we have to come together, friends. The brother, one of them is
Living, it's traveling.
He's traveling, and then offer some word of advice and prayers. And surely, because you know, we didn't have opportunity to stray away from the writings. The general conversations then was, oh, you know, in our own language, they will say "jidekiji." That means keep it up. You're already doing well, so we have less to worry about you. But one of those things were said. My mother, one of the things that was important for her was that if you are going to, I've heard what other people have said, all is well, I agree with them. But I must add, I'm quoting her, if you are going overseas, to stop going to church and abandon your Catholic faith, there is nothing you want there that will work. That was my mother. There was nothing you want there that will work. Obviously, for me, there was nothing else I knew then than going to church and Catholic. I don't even know if any other faith existed. And then she gave me a gift of rosary. I was still telling my daughter, who is 18, this story just last night. As I stepped into, I was repeating his story. I tell all the time. I was repeating, and it was the first time she was hearing it. The day I landed in Moscow, the first thing I asked was, where is church? Obviously, the church was not common then, but I was able to discover that within the American embassy, they have a chaplain. So foreigners go to church there for service. I even became a member of the choir. It was such that I could be the only student going to church from my school, even when the weather is -35. However, all these things made me what I am. So my question, I do ask them, if you think, I asked the same question last night to my daughter, if you think that other people you know are not following Catholic faith, are not upholding these virtues I've learned from this Catholic faith, show me what they have that is better than what I have. What has that thing they are doing given them? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure.
So, in that way, you now tell me we're in the wrong place. I was emphasizing on this because in a few weeks, she will be traveling to America to start her university, college education. So these things, we don't know, I don't know how our parents were able to manage this. it's a bigger challenge for people like us because no matter what you do, they have access to a whole source of information.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
those days, why you take whatever your parents tell you as if it was from God, was that that's the only source of information. No other person has the legitimacy, even the access to you to tell you anything. But today, no, it's not so. So, why as parents, we appreciate the legacy of good faith bequeathed to us by our fathers, but it's a big challenge now on how to pass it on to the next
Generation.
And so going to church those days also was very helpful because there were no shenanigans about our faith that was indicative of the fact that you go to church for any other thing except for salvation. So today in churches, there are things that these kids also see that are even very difficult for people like us who are conservative to even, it's not helping matters.
Sir, we have this aspect. You are an aviation expert, you're a business person, you are also a politician. You are just somebody like a man of different parts. And for you to be able to manage all those things, it can only take the grace of God. Now, the church has built you to this aspect, and then you've been able to navigate all these areas. How can the church also be used to better the society, especially in the aspect of helping her members and her faithful to be able to deliver on the common good, which is one of the social teachings of the Catholic Church? How have you been able to apply it, and what are the results?
Everything I am today is by grace of God, and the ways I do my things are 90% based on my Catholic foundation and faith. Because the only thing important to me in life, one single thing, only ambition I have today on earth is to go to heaven. One ambition, nothing else. One ambition I have is to go to heaven. And in the course of anything that I am doing, if there is any way I have to do it to affect that, then that thing will wait, no matter the benefit that would accrue from it, if it's not the way to the best of my ability that leads me to heaven. So for that reason, I would say that that's the foundation, that's the body, and even the roof of my life and influence, and the way it influences my business. Yes, I work hard as much as I could because I was brought up in that way due to my family upbringing and training, thanks to my parents. But in all of those, I'm aware that if there is anything I have achieved, it's not by my hard work. It is by blessing and God's grace, because I know there are people who work harder than me, put in as much hours more than I do. Some people wake up by 4 o'clock and don't come back to their home by 8. And they are doing what they like to do, no doubt about it. But because I still do not believe that measure of success is only by money or material things. No, it's not so. Otherwise, people like Mother Teresa, who we should not be talking about it today. I know that Pope John Paul II, when he died in his will, it was like, I left nothing behind. There was no material acquisition, but he's taller than each and every one of us. Recent Pope Francis left only 100 euros. So as much as I acknowledge and appreciate that, but for us from this part. So this is what has shaped my life, and this is what is continuing to guide my life. And I believe that there are a whole lot of benefits still there if the people of this generation would embrace that, if we have to find a way to let them know. But for that to happen, the church has to be better equipped to impact that knowledge. The church should be equipped, and then equipped in the sense that people who work in the church, from the priest and other people, should also have some knowledge of how these things work now in secular society, so that they will be able to also relate better with the people who are growing up, because they may be needing more than just the reading of the Bible and the interpretation of our faith. Yes.
You're watching CTV.
talking about these values of the Catholic Church that have been helping us, especially in our businesses and in our career. What are these values?
Well, first of all, we have to be humane. The church has taught us to be humane. Humanity is very, very life. Being humane in the way we deal with others, honest. You see, in our place, before the advent of the missionaries, the culture of Igbo people and the traditional worship which they had also hold at a very high esteem honesty, truthfulness, fairness to others, integrity. Even those days, one of the hallmark of a red cap chief is that you must not lie.
Yeah.
If they want to tell truth, then they have to look for you. Because it was assumed then that if you lie, or if you do anything that is not dignified to humanity and mankind, Indiana, we just wake up and knock you to death. So that again conforms with the faith of the Catholic Church. So a combination of that. And also because of that, in one of my public teachings, I do tell our people that there is this strong word in Igbo language, Eziafa Kego. Good name.
It's better than silver or gold.
It's better than money, silver or gold. And it is there as a history that after the Civil War, the Igbo people were deprived of their life savings and given 20 pounds. And not long after, they just sprang up like very fresh flower. Those businessmen then were able to grow because of integrity. Those who were able to find their way overseas to deal with some partners, they were able to prove that they can be trusted. So those people were giving them goods in credit, what they would ordinarily pay for.
Yeah.
But they didn't have the money. But he didn't stop them. Containers, shiploads, free to pay later. And you know what? They will pay to the last. This is not the same story today. So that integrity, that honest, is a teaching in the church. It's also part of our cultural core values. So a combination of that, I think, is very good, and it has helped us. The word that is so simple but very strong and meaningful to me, do to others
what you want them to do to you.
In doing, it is an official part of indoctrination process in all of my businesses and company. If no employees come in and are being indoctrinated, the word should be, now you're in this company, treat your fellow staff the way you want him or her to treat you. These are all part. So we're gradually bringing this into
businesses.
So it's fairness.
Okay, now we see a little shift in the aspect of our young people these days. We know that before the coming of the white people, we have culture and cultural beliefs that have helped us. And when the white people came and they introduced Christianity to us, so many people left the traditional worship to become Christians. Now, there's this resurgence of people, young people, especially in the eastern part of Nigeria, going back to the traditional worshiping, what they call ATR, African Traditional Religion. Would you say that there's a failure in the aspect of the church that the youths are not comfortable with, that's bringing about this resurgence? People are going back to traditional worshiping. They call it going back to our roots.
Well, I think you say so, I didn't.
This is what they are saying.
You say so, but one might not be far from the truth if he said so. Because if the early Christians were able to move traditional worshippers to
church,
and today that would have been eradicating the evils of it entirely, they are resurging. Then we should query, such a question
should be asked.
is valid, So, but again, let me correct something. There's nothing wrong in our African traditional religion. There's nothing wrong in our traditional worship. The mistake that was made then, from my own opinion, with the missionaries, was that when they came in, they did not understand that. And we did not have African theologians who understood our own religion and understood the church religion. Not until the missionaries started teaching us theology and sending some of our great men to study in Rome, people like Cardinal Arinze, who were the early African theologians. It was not until then that and then the people who were worshiping that religion then have nothing to write for the white people to read.
See,
So all they could see from that then is that since we don't know Christ, we are pagans. We are idol worshippers. Heathen, it was called in those days. But the truth of the matter was that the missionaries did not bring to us, I'm talking about traditional Igbo worship, they did not bring to us the message of God. We were already worshiping God, who we call in Igbo language Chukwu. Do you understand?
Yeah.
That name has been there before the missionary. But we're worshiping God in the way of Old Testament, Abraham, through sacrifice. And the core Igbo rules, traditions, were all anchored around the Ten Commandments. The Christian, the missionary did not bring us the message that murder is a sin against God. Before they came, if you murder your fellow human being,
there are repercussions.
The Ten Commandments is an abomination. Adultery. All those Ten Commandments, we're already practicing it. We may not know where we got it because it was not in the Bible of the Old Testament that we got it, but by our own early, it's said that we are from the Jewish part of, that tribe of Jew. So not until a person like Cardinal Arinze, who now went to study theology in Rome, and in his PhD thesis, which was on African tradition, I've read some part of it where he argued that moment the traditional worshipper is in the shrine, offering sacrifice of chicken or goat, can be equated to the moment the priest is on the altar calling on Almighty God to change bread and wine into
body and blood.
And blood. But the difference is that priest in the altar already knows that the ultimate sacrifice has been made by Christ, and now we're sharing in his body and blood. When a traditional worshiper sail in the days of Abraham, the Old Testament, that made Abraham even offered to use his own son as a sacrifice. So that those were the same moments and the same occasion. So in that way, if the missionaries understood that we're just traditional worshippers who are not pagans, that we believe in God, He would have allowed them to understudy a little bit of our tradition and allow good aspect of it that I still believe would have made our society a better place. Then matter was made worse that the overzealous converts from our own tradition to the Christianity became even bigger albatross to our own religion.
Burning their things.
Burning their dates and all that. Because as much as I am an unrepentant conservative Catholic, my knowledge and exposure and education also made it possible for me to understand the tradition. You cannot tell me that if there is a deity where people go to say the truth, to confess, that if you don't say the truth, you have immediate repercussion. Is it against God or for Satan? Does Satan believe in truth?
No.
We have a square, a village square in my hometown. Those days, the efficacy and potency of that village square is that it was known that if there is any case in the town or in the village, that's where everybody gathered to settle. You don't need to swear an oath. You only need to put off your shoes and stand on the bare ground to give your own version of the story. You should go home and sleep well if you have said the truth. But if you are bearing false witness against someone else, which this case could be a widow, a poor person, then you face the consequences. Would you say that place is evil ground? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, because these are really the things that I believe that if we preserved in our communities and societies, it would have helped to bring some discipline. It would have helped to bring some corrections. And those were the things that helped us. I'm talking about my own environment.
Yeah.
That helped us to have a well-groomed society. Even today, in the midst of that traditional worship, there are still some communities that I watched recently on social media doing some what they call Ibayi. And in that Ibayi with their traditional, with their deities, they're calling on those deities to deal with. They listed about 18 things. And all those things were things that are against society. Those who kill, those who steal, those who prevent other people's, all those things. Would you tell me that those deities are also not doing what is expected of somebody who is also a believer in God? Those may, if actually they have the power to do it, and they can do it, then they may be agents of God, one way or the other. I know one of the big leaders of this church in Nigeria, who was saying sometime that nobody will convince him that his father is not in heaven, though he was not a Christian, but he lived a righteous life. So I believe that there is a relationship between the good aspect of
the traditional
tradition and what we're expected to do as Christians, which we are taught by the modern church.
Dear viewers, the program is still Spotlight on Catholic Television of Nigeria, and we'll be taking a short break now. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, the program is Spotlight on Catholic Television of Nigeria, and today we have a distinguished Nigerian whom we are well pleased, and we are doing justice to how the Catholic faith has been able to inspire and influence his upbringing, his growing up, and how he's transferring it to his children. Yeah, some school of thought even believe that if we could go back to the traditional worship, and then it will reduce corruption, and those in government could be forced to do the right thing, because you see somebody swearing with Bible, swearing with Quran, only to be corrupt in the office. Do you think that is an option?
It should not be an option to swear with date, but I would always support anything that will uphold our traditional values, virtues, and belief. Because in that, you need not swear with anything. You only just have to know that when you go home, your townsmen will not even take what you give them, because they will see it as unclean money. You would always know that it was not the Christianity or oath that told our communities that if this man is not clean, all right, don't even have anything to do with him. Don't even go there to ask for his daughter's hand in marriage. Do you know, it wasn't the church that told us that. That's our belief. Like the origin of the word Asia Fakego. I remember growing up, Christian or no Christian, my father was not making any effort for me to be anybody else, not because those days in our own time, there was no difference between rich and poor. We grew up in an era where the richest man in the village will take his most precious child, son or daughter, and travel very far away to another rural community to meet a teacher who is living in a mud house or a house without water, electricity, to beg the teacher to accept his or her daughter under his or her custody to teach him or her values. So the child of that richest man is living in the house of that teacher to go to school, because it was known that teachers have special ways of bringing children in the right way, like the priest those days. So it's either they live with the priest or they live with teachers. So what it means then for that rich man and my father was that all the effort they were making is to bring up a child with the right values, with the right character. It was not for it to make money, because they never know there was a time that the money was needed for the purpose. So for that reason, the only thing my father would be telling me then, for whatever you do, sometimes they hold my ear like this. Don't forget the son of who you are. Don't forget the name you're upholding. Just the name of the family. Because they don't say anything wrong in you being a bricklayer, a driver. Because drivers become whatever they want to become. Those days, a farmer, farmers could those days send their children to America. America was studying overseas, was not an attraction. Remember? So it's about those values. That was the most important thing. So it's not about go there and make money for me, no. But they were able to do that because they could afford our daily meal. They could afford roof over our shelter. they had no much stress paying school fees. And those who do not have money to pay, they are not worried. They could still send their child to be an apprentice somewhere and learn some trade. So there was no pressure. They were not feeling anything deprived or under any pressure to do anything extraordinary, unlawful, or to make that money. So that was the life we grew up in, and I think that values and virtues, the right virtues, is what the society needs. If we have it in place, I believe we'll quickly hasten all that thing. The urge for money, the urge for money is always there, but it will not go away quickly. I don't want to be a prophet of the doom, of the doom, but it's something that we really need to sit down together. But the church has a lot of role to play. The church have best brains to think around these things and create a new approach and model to wage this, to declare it a war and wage it, because it's eating the fabrics of our society.
Yes, talking about the church now, we have Catholics in politics, Catholics in positions of authorities in our nation, Nigeria today. Can you say they've been able to live by example?
I think these things should be individual.
Okay.
But I do not think that there is any agenda of the Catholic Church that is being carried out by the Catholics in politics or in position of power. There is none. And I think it's high time we think of it. People will ordinarily say that politics is dirty. But in my own belief, there is nothing dirty about politics. As a matter of fact, politics is a game of noble and honest people. Except that, you have bad people in politics, dirty people in politics, and then they make it dirty. Those people who are dirty that are in politics, that give it that bad name, they will still, even if they find themselves in priesthood, they will still show the same character and the same behavior. So as much as it's important, that's why people like us don't just want to be armchair critics and all. I will try to go into the field and play the game, but again, playing it strictly in line with our belief and the Catholic values. So I'm hoping that anytime it pleases God, that we find ourselves in a position this time. I don't believe that politics in itself is a profession too. It should be a vocation. You must have job you are doing. When it's time for politics, you go and then go to your job. In that way, you have less temptation to see it as a way and a source of income. So anytime we have opportunity to be in play, then we use it to do the right things we feel based on our own teachings and moral. So for me, the church should know who do you just want this person and support him because he's a Catholic? Or do you want him and support him because he understands the Catholic agenda and the Catholic, he meets up to the Catholic criteria and qualification of a leader? If not, I do not believe that it's only Catholics who may be better leaders, right?
Yeah, sure.
So if we know that if this person has this character and quality, then we should help to support that person. But until we have the people with fear of God and love for humanity, all right, in place of leadership, we will not quickly come out of this our problem.
I want to find out from you. You contest in the last election, the primaries of the APC. and we became surprised when we heard that you are stepping aside. What motivated that?
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Everywhere I go and everything I do, I carry heavily behind me this load of my values, which are all from the Catholic teachings. Yes, at that primaries, obviously, it was obvious that our people, both the party, majority of the party members and the state are desirous of having my person in place to fly the flag of the party. And again, in keeping my promise to myself that I will play when the time comes, but play by my own rules and terms, which is my church, my faith and the doctrine. When we got to that place, it was clear that we had 14 local governments on lockdown: Anambra Central, Anambra North, and things that are going the way that do not, satisfy my conscience and my belief. There were some of my people who were ready to die in the field of shed blood, but I said it's not worth it. But to show the capacity and strength, we were all the delegates who already gathered at the designated place to be accredited at accreditation. So when I called all my supporters who were authentic delegates to the primary, that I was off the game, and I do not want anything to harm them, and they should all withdraw. Obviously, 70 to 80% of the delegates withdrew, and the whole venue became empty. I'm sure you may have.
Yeah, we followed it.
So it shows that with the real party delegates, we had 70 to 80%. So for me, that was a victory. That was a victory. Who God has given victory may not necessarily be somebody who is sitting on that throne. Because some people do sit on throne that do not belong to them. And that's why we say in our own language, Isige bogidi bogidi. So you might be carrying a crown that is not yours. Yes. So my conscience and my heart and my whole mind is giving me a feeling that, yes, it was our victory. And then the rest is in God's hands. But it's people resist destroy people, But my consolation and joy where I come all the time is that I have a deep sense of feeling that our people know what they want, they know who they want. And one time they will galvanize enough strength to withstand those who are working against that. But surely, if someone like me do not come out, they will not be motivated to do that.
So is there any plan to relaunch in a short while?
It's in God's hand.
Okay, thank you very much. A very good way to wrap up this segment of the program. Thank you very much. We keep praying for you. We need good people in politics. We need those who have the ability to pursue the common good in the society, to be in position. We hope next time when we invite you to the program, you will please oblige us. Thank you very much for being our guest today. Yes, viewers, this is where we'll be dropping the anchor on today's program, Spotlight on Catholic Television of Nigeria. For the past 30 minutes, we've been discussing with Professor Obiora Okonkwo. He is the chairman and chief executive officer of United Nigerian Airline. He is a Catholic, a father, a distinguished Nigerian with the national honor of OFR. He has done justice to our discussion, and he believes in the Catholic value, and he wants us to also imbibe and inculcate these values to our children. Please stay tuned, same time, same station next week as we bring you yet another guest. My name is Tony Abba. Bye for now.
You are watching CTV.
Hello and welcome to another edition of your program on Catholic Television of Nigeria, Spotlight. Today, our spotlight will be on the National Assembly, and we are picking somebody who is a very competent administrator who has served the National Assembly in his own right in so many capacities. And I'm talking of no other person but the Chief of Staff to the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio. He is Mr. Chinedu Akubeze.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Today we are beaming our searchlight to the office of the Chief of Staff. And we also know that you're a member of the OSAN, Old Seminarians Association of Nigeria. Tell us how you started your journey into the National Assembly, and how has it been so far?
It's been a very exhilarating journey so far. My journey with the National Assembly started on 9th April 1992 when I joined the National Assembly Service as a legal officer, grade level 8. And I've walked my way through the various rungs of the National Assembly Service. From that 1992 till I retired from service on 11th December 2024. I served the National Assembly and by extension our dear country Nigeria for 32 years in the public service, until I retired on 11th December 2024 upon attainment of the age of 60. That's my journey of service with the National Assembly.
Okay, having served for 32 years, you had a lot of experiences that you can also share. Can you share some of the experiences you've had, especially in the aspect of public service and service to the nation?
Experiences are multifarious, challenging, but rewarding at the end of the day. Within those 32 years span, I held various offices which I leveraged on to make my contributions to the public service, particularly at the National Assembly angle, the legislature. The legislature is a foremost arm of the federal government. No wonder the Constitution, in placing the three arms of government, placed the legislature first. Section 4 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 provides that there shall be a National Assembly for the Federation, which shall comprise of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Before going on in Section 5 to provide for the executive arm, and then Section 6 for the judicial arm. So it was not by accident that the framers of the Constitution placed the legislature ahead of the other two arms. Because remove the legislature, you don't have a democracy.
Democracy, yes.
Because during military regimes, which Nigeria had for very long spells, you had the executive. It existed in some form. The judiciary existed, but there was no legislature, and that was why you didn't have democracy during those periods of military interregnum. So the legislature occupies a very primary position in the democratic setting in Nigeria. So I served the legislature with pride. During those 32 years duration, I rose from level 8 which on which I joined in 1992 until I rose to the highest level of promotion in the civil service when I became a director in 2017. Beyond the promotional level of director, every other position, is an appointment.
Yeah.
But it pleased God to enable me to advance beyond the level of director. And by 2019, I got appointed as a deputy clerk in charge of administration in the House of Representatives. And by 25th November 2020, I got further appointed as a clerk of the House of Representatives. I served in that capacity for about a year and 4 months. And on 3rd March 2022, I was moved to the Senate as clerk. I served in that capacity until my retirement from service on 11 December 2024. So it's been a journey of service, richly rewarding. They enabled me occupy a position in which I can say that I did my very best within the limits of the capacity God, granted me. Running the administrative hierarchy of the House of Representatives and the Senate for 4 years. Were periods in my life that I would cherish
Yes.
forever, because I did my very best, and so far there has not been any incident of any form that pointed to inability to perform in those capacities. Rather, it was probably whatever little I was able to achieve that led to the President of the Senate, His Excellency Senator Godswill Akpabio, GCON, finding me worthy for appointment as his Chief of Staff on the very day I retired from service. Which I can say, is the first of its kind in the history of the legislature in Nigeria. So it's been richly rewarding, and I thank the Almighty God for that opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll just take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue from the aspect of this old seminarian, what you've been doing, especially as it affects the area of seminary safety.
Okay.
Dear viewers, the program is still Spotlight on Catholic Television of Nigeria, and today we are at the National Assembly to discuss with the Chief of Staff to the Senate President, His Excellency Senator Godswill Akpabio, GCON. Please don't go away. We'll be right back shortly. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, the program is Spotlight on Catholic Television of Nigeria. And today we are discussing with the Chief of Staff to the Senate President. Before we went on break, we were talking about how the OSAN has been helping to provide direction in certain areas, especially advisory. Now we have a situation in our hands where some of these minor seminaries are also at a fertile ground for attack by terrorists and so on and so forth. A case in mind is the Auchi seminary that has been attacked again and again. in your own capacity and in the capacity of OSAN, what advice should the body be given to such kind of seminary, especially for the children who are very, very little and passing through this kind of traumatic experiences? What should the seminary be doing differently to forestall such kind of situation?
Well, everybody agrees that challenge is with us at the moment. So what everybody, we at OSAN, are articulating a position, on securing the vulnerable seminaries and other institutions. As it is at the present time, it may not be very convenient to now have far-flung institutions located in places where the security personnel may not be able to effectively cover. It may be a difficult decision or approach to advise that until the security situation comes back to normal, far-flung institutions may consider, coming closer to places where it will be easy for security personnel to cover in the event of a threat, to the existence of the students in that institution. Because the terrorists usually take advantage of schools being located in far-flung places. Those things were done at a time when nobody foresaw what is going on today. Locating institutions in remote areas in order to avoid distractions. But we are facing a situation at the moment where that has somewhat become disadvantageous, in that the terrorists take on soft targets. And terrorists are human beings. They study the terrain before deciding on where to attack. So a way of attempting to address that situation could be working in synergy with the security agencies. But if there are institutions that are in very remote areas, consideration may be given into some form of emergency relocation to more protected areas. It could appear a little harsh and could involve some expenditure, but at the end of the day, the alternative would be the expenditure of relocation temporarily and the risk of attacks. Which one could outweigh, the other? It may definitely, this prevailing situation will not last forever. I'm very positive that the country will overcome over time. But for now, relocation to more protected areas could appear as one of the factors to be considered, especially in respect of institutions that are in very remote areas that may not easily be accessed by the security agencies.
How were you able to manage your spiritual life at that time? Or you just live free thinking or something?
A free thinker. But if you critically, the church is very important to aggregate opinion in a community. But in the time of Jesus Christ, there was no church.
Yes.
At the time of Jesus, there was no church. I mean, in terms of a building, the church is within you. So you can still build your spiritual life without necessarily going to church. But it is important to go to church because the assemblage of a community enables
The faith
you
to grow.
support each other in building the faith. So during that period I was talking about, it did not mean that I questioned the existence of God. No, not for once. I still believed in God. But it was just that I was not going to a physical church, to worship. I maintained my absolute belief in the existence and supremacy of God. And I was praying. As you pray to God, in the silence of your heart, and God who hears in silence will hear you. But I now acknowledge that worshiping in a community amongst the brethren also has a lot of advantages on its own, because you help each other to build each other's faith.
Okay, now what aspect of the Catholic Church would you say has really, really helped your career as a civil servant? What aspect can you say I've been able to adopt this Catholic principle and then it works for me and it's still working for me?
I find it difficult to isolate any particular aspect. It's a building block. It's a building block. Everything about the Catholic teaching has contributed in one form, or the other. The training I got from the seminary, where every minute and every second of the day is essential in your growth, made very great impressions in my public service life. The aspect that in the first year in the seminary at St. Paul Seminary Munoko in Anambra State, by 6 in the morning the bell will ring, and you wake up, you grab your bucket, and you go to the stream, the local stream, and you fetch water. You come back and pour it into a tank, common tank. And later, a couple of minutes after, you now come and queue up to draw water from that same tank to have a bath. Then you prepare for morning prayers and mass. Morning mass. After that, go for morning labor. From morning labor, go for breakfast. After breakfast, go for the day's lecture. Around 1 or thereabouts, lectures for the day end, you go for lunch. Immediately after lunch, you go for siesta. You wake up around 5 or thereabouts, go for evening sports. After sports, you shower, go for evening mass. Immediately after evening mass, go for dinner. From dinner, you rest for about 30 minutes, go for night studies. At around 9 or thereabouts, the bell rings again, lights out. You retire till the next morning. That rigidity, that expectation that this is going to be from this stage to the other, one imbibed it and in later life is stuck with your order. Like for instance now, I left the seminary in 1982, but there was one aspect of the seminary life that has stuck with me till date, for instance, wearing of singlets. I cannot dress up without wearing singlets. Up to today. It was that, aspect that was inculcated in us that time. Like this is how you dress, this is how you approach life. Every growing boy, even if one day, that's why we said that a day in the seminary is never a joke, because you encounter a life that is different from what you will encounter from any other secondary school. Yeah.
Okay, finally, as we wrap up now, I want you to tell us how the Catholic social teaching has also helped you, especially that aspect that talks about the common good. How has it been able to impact you positively in your rise to where you are right now?
Yeah, the Catholic social teaching, should not be, in my opinion, it should not be limited only to Catholics. The Catholic social teaching encompasses every aspect of a person's, growth process, because it guides you in humility. It guides you in letting go. It guides you in realizing that the next person is a human being created in the image of God and is deserving of respect and humanity. And so if I were to advise, I would then encourage every other institution outside the Catholic faith to study the Catholic social teaching and imbibe aspects of it in patterning out their own social teachings. And in any case, it's beginning to happen even in the sense that there are so many non-Catholics now who are sending their children to Catholic institutions. The Loyola Jesuit College is a Catholic school, but you have so many non-Catholics and even Muslim children. So tell me, why would a Muslim parent, for instance, want to send their child to a Catholic school? It is out of realization that the Catholic social teaching is a component part of the training in that institution, and that the words absorbing that would enable him or her turn out a much better person in life, after the school, duration. So the Catholic social teaching is a doctrine that I cherish. I'm proud of having been associated with it, and I encourage the larger society to draw a lot of lessons, from that doctrine, because it has enabled the church to bring up leaders in various spheres, and has sustained the Catholic Church over the centuries. And it's a doctrine I am proud to be associated with, and I encourage the government even to study it and, introduce it in the secular secondary, schools, because the society will be better off, for it.
Thank you very much. The Catholic social teaching is regarded as the best kept secret of the Catholic Church that has helped society to be a better place for people to live. This is where we are going to be ending this interview, and we thank you very much for your time. We pray when next we invite you to come and share your wealth of experience with us, you will find time to do so. Thank you very much. Dear viewers, we've been speaking for the past half an hour with the Chief of Staff to the Senate President, Mr. Chinedu Akubueze. Thank you very much for your time, and may God bless your work. Yeah, this is where we are going to be dropping the anchor on today's program, Spotlight on Catholic Television of Nigeria. Please stay tuned to same station, same time next week as we bring you yet another very important personality on the program. My name is Tony Abba. Stay tuned to other programs on Catholic Television of Nigeria. Bye for now.